Hello, everyone. So I wanted to share with you a method for reading playing cards that I found way back when I was a child in my mom's big dream book, which was entitled, that was its title. I believe the full title was The Big Folk Dream Book, or Veliki Narodni Sanovnik in Serbian. And that book is very old. It's, I believe, the first edition of the book was at the end of the 19th century, 1890 or somewhere around that time. And it was extremely popular in Serbia and in Austro-Hungarian Empire parts where Serbs used to live, specifically what is today Vojvodina region. So it was very popular, and among the dream interpretations for which it was often referenced, it also included the certain ways of divination, specifically cartomancy, and some instructions included there on how to read the cards. And it had, of course, the meaning lists, which if you know me if you know me already, and if you've read my text so far, I'm not very keen on the meaning lists, but it is very interesting, of course, to see those traditional meanings, but also it provides a general reading method. So, and what is interesting about this method is it's entirely general. So it does not presuppose that you already have a question, which of course makes it tricky. We can debate on this or not, but general reading methods are not very precise because there is nothing for us to anchor our interpretation in. I mean, it presupposes that you already have actually some sort of psychic abilities, which does not always equate with cartomancy, of course, because a cartomancer is a person who interprets the cards, and that does not presuppose that they are psychic. They could be, of course, but I mean, that's just simply not what it is. Therefore, it's not a very popular practice right now, at least for me, and it's not something I usually go to. But it's actually something that most people expect from a cartomancer, especially back in my birth country of Serbia and the surrounding countries. When you visit the cartomancer, there you usually first you get a general question, but then, I mean, if you really want to provide any good service to your client, then you actually start digging there, what it is that actually interests you. Sometimes the clients do not trust the cartomancer to be vulnerable with and reveal what it is actually that they want to know, which is counterproductive. Of course, if you come to a cartomancer, you should get your money's worth, and I mean, really get to know what you want to know. But nevertheless, even if there is no question, we can operate with that. And there are different methods, of course, and there are so many methods, but usually it involves one form of a tableau reading or another. And this is also the reading that is featured in the big dream book. Unfortunately, I don't have it here right now because it's still at my mom's place. But I do have a method for you, and I'm going to share it with you in this video, and I am also going to share write an article and share it in written form, so it's maybe easier to follow step by step, so you don't have to reference the video all the time. And it consists of two parts. Or we can also even separate it in three, but let's say that there are two major parts. The first one is cutting the cards, and from cutting the deck, and from cutting the deck, creating the base story. So we presuppose that the reader, that the querent really came with no context whatsoever, didn't share any other concern with you, didn't share any specific question. So you use cutting of the deck to create the initial story. And there you also see with the querent if this is something that aligns with their experience, of course. If it does, of course, then you can proceed with creating a tableau. And then, of course, you create a tableau of the cards, and you develop the story, referencing, of course, the initial setup that you created through interpreting the cutting of the deck. Of course, I didn't mention this, but this includes reading a piquet deck of playing cards, which means 32 cards, not a full deck of 52 cards, excluding jokers. This is a 32 cards, which means 7 through king, including aces. So 7, 8, 9, 10, jacks, queens, and kings, and aces. So in total 32 cards. And this is maybe the most traditional way of reading the playing cards in the Balkans, certainly in ex-Yugoslav republics. All the examples that were ever shown to me, that I've been taught when I was younger, all included exclusively the piquet deck of 32 cards. Very rarely would people read a full deck of 52 cards. Of course, we can read it, but also it's a little bit cumbersome for creating a tableau. So this is like a perfect little deck to create a tableau using 32 cards and to easily identify the significators, to identify key aspects. So I hope you enjoy this example. I will be reading with a completely random question, or like a random querent, let's put it like that, even if I won't have any querent, so to speak. It will also be just a random opening so that we can see how can we, navigate through the tableau with the most random opening. As of course you will be getting those. Very rarely you would, position certain cards and then work around those. That's not how the reading of the tableau works. You always work with laying out a fully randomized deck. So let's get on with the tableau. So let's start with the tableau. We start by shuffling the deck, of course, but first of all, we need to determine the significator. In the book, what is traditionally recognized as a significator is what determines the significator are the physical characteristics. This is also something that I practice as well when reading with playing cards. So the men will get kings, children will get the jacks, and women would get the queens. So the people with blonde hair would get hearts. People with reddish or dyed hair or gray hair would get the diamonds or coins or diamonds. And then brown-haired people would get the clover or clubs. And the dark-haired people or people with black hair would get the spades. So we start by shuffling the cards. Let's say that the querent is a blonde man, so we choose a king of hearts. So that will be a key focus of the tableau that we're going to create. But as I already indicated, we don't have a question and we don't have a base story, we don't have a context, so we need to create the context. And for that, we are going to be using the cutting of the deck. So once we shuffle the cards to our liking, we start cutting the deck. But we are going to be cutting for this purpose by creating 3 piles in this manner. So now we have 3 piles. We lift each of them and then we read the last 3 cards from this pile. So we see that, for example, let's assume that the reader is father, and so we could interpret these as the children, for example, and that he is currently preoccupied with their sporting activities with the children. We could ask, for example, if the children are active in sports, and then perhaps specifically this child could be, as we are matching the clubs, that the child is currently experiencing some difficulties, as we can associate clubs with sporting activities or work, but we usually won't go for the work when the children are in question, so maybe we could immediately go to sports and then try to associate that. Or we could also think about 7 of clubs as having some difficulties at work. And if the person would not have any children, and that would not be the focus of the story, we could, for example, see that that there are some lower positioned colleagues at work who are creating some issues in the work process. So we could, for example, talk about that and start the story with that. Then we turn over this pile, and then we read the last 4 cards of this pile. We see the Queen of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds, the Ace of Diamonds, and the 7 of Diamonds. So this would be a very interesting situation. Traditionally speaking, we could match the spouse of the king with the queen of the same suit. So in this case, the Queen of Hearts would be the spouse. But we also see the Queen of Diamonds here, and who is feeding some information, and specifically feeding some very interesting information, some gossip into to the spouse. We could also take a look, specifically because traditionally also the pairing of 2 queens could indicate a double game in love. So maybe this is the lover, the secret lover of the king, who is dying to tell something to the queen, which could create, of course, a lot of problems. So this is interesting, but we could tie in, build up that story. But of course, we cannot just we wouldn't be doing anything if we weren't connecting the story. So the entire process needs to connect. So we could say, for example, let's pick a story here and say that we decided to read this as the troubles at work. Let's go with that one, with some people there creating drama. But then we also see here that there are two women, and one is bringing some news on the financial front. Also, we could also read it like that, to the Queen of Hearts. So we could say, and we could create a story like this: you are having issues at work, and those issues are caused by people who are positioned a little bit lower. So it's not from the top management, but from your coworkers. Let's put it like that. However, your spouse is going to get a very interesting information about the business opportunity from a friend of hers, and this could be potentially something that interests you. So we'll go with that narrative, and then we turn over the other pile, or the third pile, and then from that one we read the last two cards, and we see the Queen and the Queen of Spades and the Jack of Hearts. And this is a little bit a tricky situation to form a narrative just from two court cards. But what we can, of course, is use instrumentally some traditional meanings of the cards. So this is, let's put it like this: this is the Queen of Diamonds. Is the Queen of Spades is usually either a widow, or an elderly woman, or a spiteful woman. That's traditional meaning. And the Jack of Hearts is usually a child, but it could also mean that some intentions, the intentions of the king. So the jacks could usually mean thoughts or intentions of the kings in traditional settings. So we could say, but connecting to the previous story, but there will be maybe a dark-haired woman, or there would be a little bit of a woman who is cross with you and who will be, keeping a close watch over your intentions with your further development, and could potentially create issues with that. So that is the base story. We then pick up the piles as they were already positioned. So we do not change the position of the cards. We just continue on, but we take the piles back just as they were. And then we create a tableau. So let's see if this is going to be nicely in picture. So we create a tableau by pulling 7 cards in 4 rows. Let's see, like this. Yes, this is nice. So immediately we see the significator in the cards. So we will not be putting down all of the cards. So 4 times 7, that's 28. We will be holding on to the 4 cards, the 4 last cards. And these cards are going to serve a different purpose, and that is to cover the cards of interest. So in the tableau, of course, there will be cards of interest, and specifically the 9 of Hearts, which luckily came out as the first card as well, which is also a good omen. that is the card of the desire or the card of the wishes. So if that card appears, the querent gets to make a wish, and then we cover the card and we see if the wish is going to come true. I mean, of course, it would have been much easier asking the cartomancer directly what it is that you want to know, instead of just, doing some guesswork here and making wishes, and then have an actual reading of the cards for the question at hand. So that would be much more efficient. But so let's presuppose that this is the situation, and that we are simply reading the cards, without any knowledge whatsoever, just with a lot of guesswork. And you saw already at the beginning, we can read it like this, we can read it in this manner, we can read it in that manner. So, that does not help a lot. It's always helpful to have some sort of context. And it has nothing to do. Usually people say, "Oh yeah, but that's con work." It's not con work. Not all of us are psychics. In order to give a coherent reading, it is the context that will provide or guarantee precision. Let's put it like that. So let's go back to the tableau. The tableau has the King of Hearts as the primary significator already in the top row. So what we observe is where the significator is positioned. If the significator is positioned at the bottom, we would say that the querent, like for example the King of Spades, has a lot of it on his mind. The querent has a lot on his mind. There is a big burden weighing down on top of him. So having said that, he is positioned here at the top. So he feels very confident with himself, and he feels that he has a lot of things under his control. So we read the position. That's very important. Traditionally, further, we do not read the entire tableau. We read only the cards that are of interest to us, and the cards that are in direct vicinity of the significator. So usually we read the cards above, below, to the left, to the right. In this case, the significator came on top, so we don't have anything on top of the significator. But if we would, so let's say this queen is the significator, we would read on what's on top of her for what is in her head. What is she preoccupied with? What are her thoughts? What is her primary concern? So we would also get some information from that. The card below the significator is what's traditionally called what's under your feet in Serbia, for example, what's under your feet. That means, what do you control? Have you already overcome? What are the things at your disposal? The card on the left is what's behind the significator, so something in the past, or what have they left behind. And the card to the right is the card of what is coming. So in this trajectory, everything to the left is, of course, the past. Everything to the right is the future, or things that are coming. The center, where the significator finds itself, is the present. And this is, those who already read Lenormand cards are going to recognize the same mechanics. So in that sense, it's not different at all from Lenormand. So what we look is where the significator is, and what are the direct cards around him. So we already see that he has a lot of influence on the King of Diamonds. What could that be? Is for example that there is a desire. If the querent is homosexual, we, for example, see that these are, there are hearts here, the domain of emotions, and they are flanking both the king of hearts and the king of diamonds, and we see that he already secured the love of this person. So this is a very positive sign for an emotion, for an emotional reading, or the love reading, let's put it like that. And maybe even because we have 9 to 10, that he is planning on setting things on a higher level, maybe proposing. In that sense, we would see where the ace of coins is as well. Is it somewhere nearby? The ace of coins is also traditionally the card of the ring, so the card that indicates an engagement ring. We see where the person is intersecting with the ring. So we see that the King of Hearts is intersecting with the Ace of Diamonds in actually the Ace of Clubs. So he's thinking about it for sure. He has some reservations. Could be some past issues. Past love issues that are he's having some reservations about popping the question, but on the other side, he sees it as well as a very financially convenient solution to pop the question, to create a marriage. So that's how you go further with this. Going further from that, we could as well, if we want to deliver the story further, look what are the cards going towards the future in this sense. But the most important thing is, locating the significator, seeing what is happening with the significator, seeing what is happening in this line here, where the significator finds himself, and then further seeing how he interacts. If we go back to the story that for example, we ignore the trajectory where he is a gay man. We maybe go back that he's married, and then we are looking for the traditional indicator of the wife, and that is the queen of the same suit, the Queen of Hearts. We see where they're intersecting, and this will be very interesting. They're intersecting in a king, and the queen is looking right at this king. And the king has the jack of spades flanking right next to him. So we are not very sure how pure are these king's intentions, and specifically that the queen is looking at him at the moment. So this could be already an issue. So we have a completely different story. That would be then another interesting thing to observe. So to cut the story short, we look at the significators, look at the intersecting lines, and maybe some cards that are right next to the significator, and then we develop the story from that further. Once we are done with interpreting the tableau, we cover the cards of interest. So we could we also assign significators for other things. So as we already said, if a client has any kind of wish or a desire that they want to learn more about, they can make a wish, and then we cover the wish card, which is the 9 of Hearts. We also assign significators for other aspects. As I already said, the 10 of coins, or 10 of diamonds, is of course the card of money. So if the financial issues or the financial questions are of interest, we could see what's going to happen with the money. So we put the card down for that. Traditionally, you would also always cover the Ace of Hearts, which is the home. So we see what's happening with the house, with our immediate family, people living in our home. So we would cover that as well. For example, let's say that the king is married to the Queen of Hearts. Let's go with that. We would also cover the spouse, but you give always the choice to the querent what do they want to cover. So there are always things that you can reference with the significators. If a paper or a document, an important document, is in question, we could use, of course, the ace of the ace of diamonds, which also stands for ring, but also stands for a letter or a paper. We could also use that one. So those are the issues. Those are the significators. Enemies could be traditionally referenced by the spades, by the suit of spades. The king of spades as a male enemy, the queen of spades as a female enemy. The jack of spades is usually a troublesome youth or a thief. And traditionally, sometimes they say it could also represent the devil himself, but in a more mundane sense, it could be a troublesome youth or a thief. So those are some of the significators that we can consider using, and then we turn over the cards and see what covers those significators. So we see that the nine of clubs is covering the nine of hearts. So nine of clubs indicate work, indicate pressure, indicate some laborious process. So we would say that specifically that it is a 9 as well. It's there is a possibility that this wish realizes, that it is realized, but it will require a lot of effort on the querent's part, and quite possibly the change of the change of approach. Sometimes we also associate 9s with the change, but so we could say that it requires a lot of work and possibly looking at things differently or working things differently, to be more precise. So we would say that for the wish. When it comes to money, we have the 8 of diamonds. So this could be a group of people concerned with money. We could say that maybe a joint effort in business would bring benefit here. But also traditionally, the 8 of diamonds can indicate swiftness. So we would also say that some windfall, a good windfall would come swiftly when it comes to money. But again, try to get some context out of this. When they say that they want to cover money, let's try to see, okay, is there something that's particularly interests them regarding the money, so we can better interpret, of course, the cover card and its influence. So we see that we take a look at the querent, and then we see that she is covered with the Queen of Spades. This could also again mean a lot of things. Again, context is important. Because this could also mean that she is preoccupied with her own mother, because this could be an elderly woman, that she is dealing with with an enemy of hers, that somebody is trying to do something to her. Again, context, context, context. And the house, we see a jack of the jack of hearts. This can mean a lot of things. It can, if they have a child and are not planning another one, we could see that the child is going to be the main focus of the in the home right now. The betterment of the child, that or the focus will need to be on the child in the coming period. If they don't have any children, but they have a desire to have children, and that is something that they are working on, this could be a very good sign. We could say that the child is coming into a house. So that is for now some sort of the reduced interpretation of what we can look at in a general reading tableau. As I said, and I repeated this many times, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, it's not a preferred way to read the cards, as there is a lot of guesswork involved, and it's always better for everyone if you have some sort of context, if you have something to focus on, so that you can give a precise reading of the cards. But nevertheless, it could be a fun experience, like just going through the motions here and then seeing what comes up. So I hope you enjoyed this. And if you ever want to learn more about any other methods, or maybe something more traditional coming from the former Yugoslavia, from the Balkans when it comes to divination, let me know.